the New Alliance attack on Americans' divine origins. A strong voice of mine is that it's not simply Marxism. A huge part of what the Settlement Project exists to say is that it is no longer simply Marxism. The international peace-seeking caused me to know as a fact that people at war can stop being at war. I've done it a lot of times in my life. I've been involved in Israel and Palestine. I've been involved in South Africa. I've been involved with terrorists in southern Philippines. I met the guy in the jungle, the head of Abu Sayyaf, et cetera, et cetera. And I believe basically war and conflict is the way to destroy a land. It's the way to remove prosperity from existence. And if America remains in conflict, it will be destroyed. The good guys, we cannot just win. So settlement means that the pendulum stops swinging. It isn't sometimes the right wins, sometimes the left wins. We have no more swings left. And so the other little quip on the issue of settlement is that Americans are born to be free. Our founders recognized that by being born, you're free. We're created, our freedoms come from having a creator. This is what our founders and framers know. And so freedom and equality, our equality comes from having a creator, both those things. And that's all what an American is. It's a person who's free by being born and equal by being born. It doesn't come from anyone or anything other than from God. And so I thought to myself, no one is free if someone is plotting your demise. And so the circumstantial background is there's a new enemy alliance that is not plain Marxism. And as long as we keep calling it Marxism, we will be laughed at by the intellectual elite progressive left. They will think we're fools, and they'll go home shaking their head at the kind of archaic Neanderthalic knuckle dragging. We have to know philosophically what is the nature of what we're fighting. So both spiritually and politically, there's the lack of clarity. Okay, so this is one of the things that the Settlement Project seeks to address. The original enemy, Marxism-Leninism, it had its greatest authority and power in the Soviet Union. China was a little weaker in the 20th century. Where are we going to find people that are morally clear and willing to say so? We have to get to the point where we're not just trying to be polite in good company constantly. And also, that's on the spiritual side. On the religious side, there's confusion morally. There's too much compromise, too much unclarity between what's right and wrong spiritually, in my opinion, spiritually and religiously. And then on the political side, there's an exact mirror of that. But basically, communism was an economic theory. And the enemy was anybody that's well-to-do, anybody that's it's going okay for, and the victim and the oppressed are the proletariat, the working class. It's an economic theory, and you have a clear enemy. Basically, anybody who's rich, anybody who's invested in capitalism, in corporate life, etc. That's the full extent of Marxism, and they tried to take over the world using an economic theory based on resentment, vengeance, and violence. The other aspect of Marxism is violence as reform. That's what dialectical materialism means, violence as reform. And violence as reform means win at any cost, ends justify the means. These are the characteristics of communism. I believe that, quote unquote, God's side won. I believe that God's side won. Reagan, Thatcher, Pope John Paul II, the Soviet Union fell and collapsed, and Marxism as a political theory and ideology was overcome by free market capitalism and a country founded in God. But for the last 30 years, something has happened in which we wake up to find that whatever that was is not only nowhere near gone, but worse than we had ever imagined. The CCP is entirely Marxist, but it's Maoist. It's Maoist. It is a different basis of perpetrating the violent overthrow of any class that's deemed the enemy. I believe that Maoism, neo-Maoism, the current version of overthrowing the enemy is never stand in front of the enemy. The enemy is destroyed. It's death by 1,000 cuts, death by 1,000 cuts. So standpoint theory, identity theory, these are new in what we're fighting. And now you don't have the bourgeoisie is not your enemy. You know who's my enemy? A white guy. You know who's my enemy? A male. You know who's my enemy? Somebody who dares to actually have a child. So now you don't have an economic theory of a bourgeoisie and a proletariat. Still you have everything is oppression, that's Marxist. Still you have violence is the answer, that's Marxist. Yes. So all the champions we have, the Mark Levins, you know, the great speakers, they're calling it Marxist. It is Marxist, but it is so infused and it has adopted standpoint theory so that everything is my enemy. I'm advocating or recommending or hoping we are capable of having a broader interreligious solidarity. Everybody who's genuinely religious are our allies. Thank you very much for your time.